Welcome to the Wealth is in the Details podcast. In this podcast, financial planner Peter Raskin helps families and business owners understand and prepare for their wealth journey. Along the way, thoughtful and detailed planning can provide clarity and confidence as clients confront a multitude of financial decisions. Listen in as Peter shares stories and insight into people's wealth journeys. Now, let's get into today's podcast.
Hello and welcome to Wealth is in the Details with Peter Raskin of Raskin Planning Group. Peter, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you, Eric?
Doing fantastic. And I saw the title for the podcast today, and that's No Decision is a Decision. And I think that conjures up a lot for me. There's a lot to unpack just in that title. Why did you title it this way today?
Well, I received a call yesterday from Amy, who happens to be Jane's sister. I'm using different names to protect our clients. But about 6 weeks ago, Jane had decided to hire us to do comprehensive planning.
Mm-hmm.
Her accountant had referred her to me, and she was a successful executive at a multinational company around the Boston area. She was in her mid-50s, divorced, no children, works really hard, travels a lot for work, and her real love is her dog. She's got this fantastic dog, and
Nice.
It's part of her family.
Yeah.
And so I was real excited to work with Jane, and we were starting the planning process. In the meantime, Amy calls me yesterday to tell me that Jane had passed away a couple days ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and she asked if we had started the planning process because Jane had told Amy that this is what she was doing, and really she was calling to see if we had any copies of estate planning documents. We don't. We had just started this process, and I'm so sorry we didn't get the opportunity to really build a relationship with Jane and help her meet her goals over a long period of time.
Yeah.
But based on our initial meeting, she was just real excited about her future. She had a lot to look forward to. Over the years, she'd made lots of good decisions. She was a successful business lady and had done quite well. Great family, had a great life, and she had done well. She had a lot of good things in place financially,
Mm-hmm.
but what she wanted was to really get greater clarity about where she could go and what she could do. She wanted to feel an enhanced level of confidence that she was doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't want to, she didn't want to focus on her financial details. She wanted her financial planner and her accountant to really attend to these details going forward. So that was our job.
Yeah.
And that is our job, I think.
Yeah.
And so really unfortunate. I'm so sad. I didn't get to know her that well, but this was just a reminder. And it got me thinking about really the urgency of good planning, good comprehensive planning.
Mm-hmm.
So today's discussion isn't about financial products or instruments or strategies. It's really just a conversation about why one should start the planning process now and then keep it going. And the reason why I think of that title, No Decision is a Decision, is that so often we're confronted with decisions every single day of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And it really struck me that many of us don't get to planning because we just want to avoid a decision.
Yeah.
We don't want to commit. And so this is really more of a conversation with you. Hopefully our listeners are going to find it helpful about committing to the planning process, not just once, but over your lifetime.
Yeah. And Peter, I'm so sorry. I mean, I know how much, we've spoken about it before, how much you care for your clients. And even if you only met her once or twice, I know you had a vested interest in her success. And so that it is a tragic story. It's just unfortunately, it's a stark reminder of how fragile life can be, right?
Yeah, I think, man, we all know that. We all speak those words.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the the urgent matters of life uh, sometimes overtake the important matters of life,
Yeah.
on a regular basis. So, I really want to focus on today. Our conversation is really around the process of planning and how it's never really a finished product. It's not. When people work with us, they get a written plan,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very detailed and it's long, but that's not what they're engaging us to do. It's really and I've said it probably 30 times, is this it's a process of discovery, a process of getting things done.
Yeah. And exactly. You've told me, you know, tons of times that we talking before podcasts, after podcasts, and during podcasts that the plan is never it's never really complete. It's an ongoing. It's like a living document, right?
Yeah, and that's why we describe our services as a kind of as a coach for our clients who are on a ongoing journey,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it ends.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the plan uh, that we talk to our clients about is probably going to move on to even that next generation. And when I talk about the plan, I'm talking about not just the assets, but the memories, the love, the family values. Those will all pass on to that next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of this as part of the family legacy. We may not be involved in that next generation, but the plan that we do today is likely to be passed on in one shape or another.
Yeah.
In Jane's case, her legacy is really her mom and her siblings. Jane didn't have children. She wasn't married. Uh, she didn't have a will or any trusts that really talked about the priorities she had, and it wasn't there. She hadn't done it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that we had a conversation about it, how it was going to be a real priority for her to take care of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you die without a will, that means the state you reside in determines who your heirs are.
Mm.
So if you've got special bequests, that's not going to happen. If you've got philanthropy, that's not going to happen. So they're dying intestate, which means dying without a will, or any instructions to your heirs. Is You may not get exactly what you want.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like Jane had some good foundational pieces. I mean, a good job, working hard. Um, she had some of those basic things set up, but a lot was left undone.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think that's true for most of us on an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there are stones left unturned. And my point is not that Jane should have taken care of everything before she passed, because that's a judgment I can't make. That's just not fair to her
Yeah.
and to anyone. So it's just she did the best she could and did as much as she could at that time. My message is that this work of planning is never really done.
Yeah.
That the advantage of thinking of it as a process and not a transaction is that you hopefully move closer to what your objectives are. It's just moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what I hope to help our listeners understand, that the little decisions that you make are helpful because they move you forward toward planning for your future.
Yeah, and that's such an important message. And we've talked before about, like you said, you walk alongside your clients. You're there every step of the way, and so doing the planning is the very first step. That is the most important part, just to get it on paper and not quote unquote done, but completing that initial plan. And then I know that you work with your clients throughout the year as well. So talk to us a little bit about the importance of annual reviews or quarterly reviews, or however you set that up with your clients.
Yeah. So once we've done an initial plan, we then prioritize what's most important to the client. We'll have some input there. we'll suggest and recommend that they take care of these issues first.
Mm-hmm.
But the client ultimately makes the decision about what order they want and what's most important to them. So I think that's really important. I think it's also just for many of our clients that we work with, uh, sometimes it's like drinking from a hose.
Yeah.
Just it's just too much. It's so much information. There's so many things to do, and they've got very busy lives and family, and again, it's back to that. What's fair? It's not fair to expect someone to drop everything they're doing today
Mm-hmm.
and take care of certain things that we think they should. But you're moving forward. You're making improvements, enhancements. So we prioritize what they need to complete, what they want to complete, and the time horizon that they want to complete it in. So happens usually over 6 to 10 months, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're at, okay, well, what's left to complete? And when do we do this? Do we do that in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months? Do we do it? What's your timing? And we, as a firm, once we've completed that first year engagement, we then get into our annual review mode. And in an annual review, we're basically checking boxes. Have we taken care of all these things? Are your beneficiary designations as accurate as you want them to be? Is it what you want? And are all your accounts? Have you looked at all your accounts? Have you confirmed that that's how your beneficiary designation should be?
Mm-hmm.
We're working with a client now. We're in that second year review. She's made changes to her beneficiary designations over the last 12 months, and not every account has been updated exactly the same way.
Ah,
So
gotcha.
she over time, her thinking has changed, and she's not gone back to the first account that she changed to reflect what she's currently thinking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just, simple things like that. Uh, I'm kind of just going down a list here, but tax law changes, those come about, and yeah, how do they affect you? So there was recent legislation that was passed, and I'll talk about that in a recent podcast. I have talked about it in a recent podcast called the Secure Act.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that affects many of our clients, and so part of the advantage of doing annual reviews and updates is to reflect on those changes to tax laws, how they affect you. Is there anything that you need to do? So again, back to that, this process, it just doesn't change because laws change.
Yeah. Yep.
Another example, we have we've worked with a client for many years, and frankly, over the last couple of years, they've procrastinated in updating their planning.
Mm.
And that happens. Life gets in the way, and we've reached out and they've said, this is not the right time. We can't do it for a variety of good reasons. And so we just never got to update their plan. Recently, they called me about a large increase in premium on one of their life insurance policies. And that was news to me, because we hadn't updated their plan for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at that, and what it turned out was that over the last 6 months, their policy matured. They had a level premium plan for 20 years. And in year 21, the rates increased.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. And they didn't notice the increase in their checking account. They weren't looking at their checking account on a regular basis and confirming their expenses. And so when they did that, they realized they had spent probably almost $10,000 extra.
Wow.
Yeah. And, part of the planning process would have been, let's look at the insurance. Let's look at these maturity dates. When a premium is going to increase, is that what you want?
Mm-hmm.
And deal with that.
Mm.
So again, just the advantages of doing annual reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other things that come up, health concerns, what's going on with kids, with parents, how will this affect your planning? One thing I've noticed over the years that we're able to at least have conversations with is especially for our clients that are aging, and the children that have aging parents.
Mm-hmm.
Cognitive issues are becoming more and more of an issue as our society ages.
Yes.
So, we might notice some cognitive issues between a spouse, a husband and wife.
Mm.
Um, and we'll have that conversation with the children. How are they doing? Is there any, are these issues that you've seen? And then try to address those. So there's a long list of things that we're looking at each year, whether it be Medicare, where it be changes to employee benefits at their employer, and all these things are really important to at least address in an annual review. And then decisions again are so important. It's important just to move forward and make some decisions about your path going forward.
Yeah, and a lot of those things on that list, Peter, I mean, that it gets into personal issues, right? Cognitive issues. That's a very personal subject. And I could see people putting off making a decision or even having the conversation because they just don't want to face those types of things, right? Or, you talked about beneficiary designations. Maybe, somebody doesn't want to talk about the fact that their children and them are in the middle of this fight, or one specific child is just being outrageously off the rails, and they don't want to discuss that to change the beneficiary just for their own safety or whatever. Can you kind of talk about how important it is for all of us to have a third party take a look at this and be able to ask these questions and be able to get into this information to help us kind of remove the emotion from it? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's really such an important advantage of working with an independent person who's not vested
Mm-hmm.
in the family dynamics. Every family, everyone has an agenda. I don't mean that to be a negative from a negative perspective, but family members come at it from their own agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I think having a third party that's objective, that's judgment free, can really look at it from a different perspective, and allows the couple, when we're working with a couple, allows the couple to deal with the important issues and not deal with the kind of those issues that are fraught with emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Just as an example, I've recently spoken with a prospective client. They're both really successful. But each has a different relationship with money, and they admitted it. They both want to retire in less than 10 years. But frankly, after hearing what they're all about and what they want, this may be a difficult reach for them.
Mm.
And as a couple, they really are spending more than they earn, and they've been funding this lifestyle through inheritance and the sale of a business, but they are spending down assets. They're not growing assets. And having a person, a planner who's independent of this relationship, is more able, I think, to get down to the true goals and objectives, to help them really focus on that, and help them as a couple move through this conversation, and prioritize what they really want. If they really want to retire in less than 10 years, there are going to have to be some changes made.
Mm-hmm.
And if they decide that they really can't make those changes right now, well, that has a consequence. And when someone who's independent of the couple can talk to them about that, it allows them to enter that space a little bit more easily, I think, and reach conclusions that are helpful.
Yeah, I think that if we're all honest with ourselves, truly honest with ourselves, we've all needed a bit of a push or kick in the butt, right? I mean, it's one of those things that if we did everything on our own and we were able to accomplish everything, that would be fantastic. But I know personally in my life and the people that I've worked with as a coach and a consultant, everybody just needs a push every once in a while. I think that the planning process is kind of that push. It really kind of focuses on helping the client make that decision and actually move forward toward a goal.
Yeah, I think you're right. And no decision is a decision, right?
Yeah.
As I said
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
If you don't want to deal with that budgeting issue right now, well, that's a decision. and that's got a consequence. And if you're okay with that consequence for right now, so be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, are you going to be okay with that consequence in a week or a month or 6 months or a year?
Or 5 years or 10 years?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of what we're when we're modeling our plans, we're thinking 5 to 10 years. So if you don't, if you are retaining that second home, and it's clear in the financial plan that we've done that's probably a property that you'll have to sell at some point in the future. Understand you don't need to make a decision right now, but it's something that you will have to decide upon in the
Mm-hmm.
next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what happens in those 5 years? If you've got a second home, how much does that take down the possible income you have, or your savings or whatever? You're absolutely right. That's a huge, huge thing.
So to me, I really want to help them focus on that decision making.
Yeah.
Implementing the plan, and hopefully they'll make the best decision they can at that time, at that point in time. It may not be perfect, but if it's beneficial to some degree, then that's good. If that increases their chances of success, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So to us, it's really moving forward that's the most important. That's why we're with our clients for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it can't all get done in year one. There's likely to be changes throughout the years, and we want to help them move forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one way I do that is I start off with sometimes the easy decisions. Let's get these things off the list. Let's come back to that harder decision.
Mm-hmm.
Let's choose a trustee or a guardian or a healthcare proxy. It may not be the perfect one. Let's start saving for retirement, increase your contributions each year. It may not be enough right now, but if we just begin, we're going to get closer.
Yeah. Baby steps, right?
Yeah. Baby steps. Purchase lots and lots of term life insurance when you're young. You never know when you're not going to be insurable.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to make the perfect decision about whether it's a cash value life insurance policy. You can throw a lot of term life insurance at that problem, and then you've solved a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Paying off debt instead of keeping money in a money market account. That's a decision.
Yeah.
And probably going to be helpful. The point is to do something, to make enhancements, to make your plan better, to make some decisions, and you're going to feel better.
Absolutely.
Checking things off the list just makes you feel better.
Well, it's funny you say that, Peter, because as a coach, one of the things that I did with a lot of my clients, and this has been researched to death and scientifically proven, that the sense of accomplishment releases endorphins into your system, right? So I would have my clients make a checklist, and I would be very specific. Get a Sharpie marker, or get one of those markers that the all the kids use, when they're real young, that have all the flavors. Like my favorite was grape, the grape flavored marker. Not that they tasted like grape, they smelled like grape, Peter. I don't want anybody out there thinking that I'm eating markers. But what we would do is I would say, you make your list. They would have a list of things that they wanted to get accomplished. And as they would do that, they would completely cross it off the list, one line through there. And the Sharpie or a marker on a piece of paper makes a very distinct sound. And there's a smell associated with it, whether it's the Sharpie smell or whether it's that grape flavored marker or whatever flavor you choose. That was something that would actually reinforce them and help them to draw on that. When they were crossing those things off the list, it makes you feel good. And that sense of smell and the sound that's associated with getting things done, all of that worked in harmony to release those endorphins to make them feel good about getting those things accomplished. So I'm 100% on board with you. Get those small, easy decisions. Check those things off first so you see that list being accomplished. Work your way up to some of those bigger ones.
Yeah, and then you'll come back to it.
Yes.
You if it's not the perfect decision at that point, that's okay. We'll come back to that in year 2, 3, 4, wherever it is.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I think this is such an important message, and I feel so terrible for Jane's family, but there's been so many examples as I've been doing this for 35 years, I've seen so many families deal with issues that were just unexpected,
Yeah.
unexplained. It just, life throws us for major loops, and that happens. And if we, from a planning perspective, are getting better each and every year, moving forward, making decisions, our family, our relationships, our heirs, the charities that we want to leave gifts to, uh, the, we'll all be in a better place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the message I wanted to get to really discuss today. And thank you for being part of that conversation, because I think it's an important one.
No, and I appreciate you allowing me to be part of the conversation, because I agree 100%. Incredibly important message. When it happens to someone we love, it's a huge wake-up call to us. But my hope is for the listeners that they don't wait until it's, someone they love that this happened to, that, wow, I really need to do something about it. Let this message be the wake-up call and say, you know what, I need to reach out and do that. So I encourage everyone to talk to their professional. Peter, obviously, I encourage them to talk to you to either get a second opinion or a first if they're not working with a professional right now. And that being said, Peter, how should they contact you if they do want to start this conversation?
People can call me at 617-728-7433, or they can contact us at peter.raskin at lfg.com. I always recommend that people visit our website at raskinplanning.com as well.
Fantastic. Peter, again, thanks for the message today. Very important, and I thank you for your insight and your time.
Thank you, Eric.
You bet. And for all listening, thank you for listening to the Wealth is in the Details podcast with Peter Raskin. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Peter comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. And if this is a tough conversation to start because of some of the things that you maybe are experiencing in your life right now, share this with someone that you love so that you guys can start that conversation so they can hear how important it is to begin and take that first step. Again, for everyone at Raskin Planning Group, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Wealth is in the Details podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Lincoln Financial Advisors Corporation. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Peter Raskin is a registered representative of Lincoln Financial Advisors. Securities offered through Lincoln Financial Advisors Corporation, a broker, dealer, member SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through SageMark Consulting, a division of Lincoln Financial Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Insurance offered through Lincoln affiliates and other fine companies. Raskin Planning Group is not an affiliate of Lincoln Financial Advisors. Lincoln Financial Advisors Corporation and its representatives do not provide legal or tax advice. You may want to consult a legal or tax advisor regarding any legal or tax information as it relates to your personal circumstances.